My name is Wendy and I'm 34 years old. For 15 years, I sent my parents $4,000 every month. Quietly, automatically, without reminders or applause. Because I believed family meant responsibility, and responsibility meant you show up even when no one sees it. I didn't miss a single month. Not when my rent jumped. Not when my car died. Not when my job switched me to contract and I lost benefits overnight. I tightened my belt and told myself this was what a good daughter did. I told myself love was a ledger you didn't talk about. Last Christmas, I overheard my mom tell my aunt, with a laugh that landed like glass in my chest, she owes us. We fed her for 18 years. I stood in the hallway with a plate cooling in my hands, the house humming with holiday noise, and I didn't say a word. I pulled out my phone and made one call. That moment didn't come from nowhere. It was the echo of years. My parents had always liked the story, where they were strugglers and I was the miracle they raised. The one who made it and therefore could afford to give back forever. They didn't know the math of my life because they never asked, and I never volunteered. The standing order went out on the first of every month, and I let them believe it was easy. I'd learned early that my worth to them increased with my usefulness, that gratitude was a debt that compounded. The truth was messier. I worked 2 jobs through my 20s, paid off student loans late at night with ramen breath and a knot in my shoulders, said no to vacations and yes to overtime. When I finally stabilized, the transfers didn't stop. They grew expectations around them like ivy. We'll be late on the mortgage, Dad would say, and the implication was clear. Your mother's prescriptions are expensive, Mom would sigh, so I paid. I paid even when my savings stalled, even when I told myself I'd catch up later. Christmas that year, I arrived with gifts and a smile. The practiced one, the kind that says everything is fine. That's when I heard it, she owes us. And something in me hardened. I made that call to my bank, then another to my accountant, then a third to my attorney friend. Because I needed clarity, not comfort. A week later, my dad posted it on Facebook for everyone to see. We're disowning our daughter. The post was long and righteous, full of selective memory, the kind that paints sacrifices without mentioning receipts. He wrote about ingratitude and betrayal, about how some children forget who fed them, and how respect is earned by obedience. Comments poured in, thumbs up from relatives who'd never checked in, prayers from acquaintances who loved a moral drama, silence from the ones who knew better. My phone buzzed until it felt like a second heartbeat. Cousins asking what happened. Coworkers whispering they'd seen it. My mother sending a single text that said, "You've embarrassed us." I didn't respond. I reread the words, "We're disowning our daughter," until they stopped stinging and started sounding like a door slamming shut, loud, final, but also definitive. I thought about all those transfers, the 15 years, the exact number that would later make people gasp. And I thought about that hallway at Christmas, the aunt's laugh, the sentence that reduced my childhood to a bill. I thought about the sentence I hadn't said. By New Year's Eve, they finally learned how broke I actually was. But the path to that revelation was paved with my silence. When relatives called, I told them I loved my parents and hoped they were well, nothing more. When Dad messaged to say the post had been shared and I should fix this, I didn't argue. I let the narrative run because I knew facts are patient. Behind the scenes, I canceled the standing order, the one that had been my quiet promise. And I watched the confirmation email arrive like a deep breath after years underwater. I didn't announce it. I didn't threaten. I didn't explain. I kept going to work, kept my head down, kept receipts. The holiday glitter came down, the year turned, and the consequences of public words began to knock at private doors. This wasn't revenge. It was gravity. The story people thought they knew was about to meet the numbers they'd never asked for. And I was done carrying both the myth and the money. The week after my dad's post, the silence from my parents broke in small, panicked cracks that told the truth louder than any argument ever could. Because once the 4,000 didn't arrive on the first, the story they'd been telling everyone began to wobble. At first it was subtle, missed calls, a voicemail from my mom that sounded cheerful but rushed, asking if everything was okay with the transfer. I didn't reply. By day 3, Dad messaged that there must be a banking error and that I needed to fix it immediately. I still didn't reply. By day 5, the tone shifted to anger, then fear, then bargaining, because reality doesn't care about pride. That's when relatives started calling me again. This time not to scold, but to ask questions. Because my parents had started asking them for money, and people wanted to know why the daughter they'd publicly disowned had been paying their bills for 15 years. I answered calmly once with facts only, and I sent screenshots, monthly transfers, totals, dates, no commentary, no emotion, just numbers lined up like soldiers. The same aunt from Christmas went quiet after that. So did most of the comment section under my dad's post, which he eventually edited, then deleted. But screenshots have a longer memory than shame. My parents tried to spin it, saying I'd cut them off out of spite, that I was punishing them, but the timeline betrayed them, because the receipts showed consistency, sacrifice, and an end that matched their own declaration. We're disowning our daughter. You don't get to disown someone and still cash their checks. By New Year's Eve, word had traveled through the family grapevine that I wasn't rich, that I'd been barely afloat for years, that I'd skipped vacations and delayed milestones to keep them comfortable, and that I'd finally stopped. That's when my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. Eyes red, hands shaking, asking how I could do this to them, asking if I remembered all they'd done for me. I told her I remembered everything, especially the part where I overheard, "She owes us." We fed her for 18 years. I told her that feeding your child isn't a loan, it's a duty, and love that comes with an invoice isn't love I can afford anymore. She cried harder, accused me of being cold, said family doesn't keep score, and I almost laughed at the irony, because I'd been the only one keeping score, quietly while they kept spending loudly. Dad didn't come. He sent a message later saying I'd humiliated him, that I'd turned everyone against him, that he never meant the Facebook post to go that far. I told him words have weight, especially when you post them for the world, and that I didn't make him disown me, he announced it himself. Over the next few days, something interesting happened. The family disowned him, not with a single dramatic post, but with distance, with unanswered calls, with polite refusals because people don't like being lied to, and they really don't like discovering they've been manipulated into judging the wrong person. Invitations dried up. Group chats went quiet. The same cousins who had commented, "Amen," under his post stopped, engaging altogether. My parents' narrative collapsed under its own contradictions, and I watched from a distance, not celebrating, not grieving, just finally resting. I felt lighter, even as I felt sad, because freedom can coexist with loss. I started rebuilding slowly, responsibly, putting that $4,000 toward my own emergency fund, my own therapy, my own future, the one I'd been postponing indefinitely. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. I stopped flinching at my phone. I stopped feeling like my adulthood was a debt I'd never finish paying. A month later, Dad asked to talk, really talk. No accusations, no posts. I said maybe someday, but not yet. Because boundaries aren't punishments. They're repairs, and repairs take time. I don't know what our relationship will look like in the future, but I know what it won't look like. It won't be built on guilt, silence, or the lie that I owe anyone for being born. If you're watching this and you've ever been told you owe your family your peace, your savings, your life, just because they did what parents are supposed to do, hear me clearly, you don't. Love is not a subscription. You pay forever to avoid being cut off. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop paying into a story that's bankrupting you and let the truth do its quiet work. If this story hit close to home and you want more real, raw stories about boundaries, consequences, and finding your spine,